On today's show, we explore how past identities, labels, and old stories can quietly follow us for years, even after we've outgrown them. So grab your popcorn, get comfy, and silence your inner critic, because it's time to Movify your life and recast your role. Welcome to the Movify Your Life show, the plot twist you've been waiting for. I'm your host, Jessica Grace Coleman, and through the Movify Your Life method, I'll show you how to step into the starring role of your story and create a life worth watching. Every Movify Monday, you'll learn how to turn everyday moments into unforgettable memories, activate your main character energy, and use cinematic tools to boldly chase your biggest dreams, like the movie star you truly are. Because when the credits roll, I want you to look back at your life like it's the greatest film ever made, full of meaning, magic, and most importantly, zero regrets. And because I truly believe everyone deserves to live an epic life fit for the big screen. So grab your popcorn, cue the music, and together, let's Movify your life. Hello, and welcome to the Movify Your Life show. I am your host, Jessica Grace Coleman. You can call me Jess. I am Chief Movifier and Director of Movify Your Life. I always laugh because that's so silly, Chief Movifier. But hey, life should be more silly, I think. And this episode is titled, Are You Still Playing a Version of You That No Longer Exists? And the idea for this episode came to me recently. It's just one of those, I wouldn't say light bulb moments because I kind of already knew it, but just a moment where this became very apparent to me. So I need to give you a bit of background info before I get into this for it to make sense. So basically, since I was a kid, I've always been known as the shy one, like the quiet one, the nervous one who hates speaking in front of people and being seen. And I just like the shyest person you've ever met, basically. I always felt invisible at school, which was... It kind of worked for me at the time because I hated this being the center of attention. So I hated doing presentations and all that kind of stuff. Like, you have no idea the dread that would fill my body for weeks and weeks and weeks before I knew I had to do a presentation to the class. And if it was anything bigger than that, like an assembly to the whole school, the whole year or whatever, just nope. I also hated talking out even in small groups. Like, unless I was with a group of friends who I knew, I would never voluntarily speak out. I would just be the one who sat there and listened and took everything in and hoped the spotlight never came around to me. So that's sort of my history in a nutshell. And recently I went to a coaching day retreat, which I've talked about on this podcast. I talked about it during my sort of January roundup episode, where I was talking about how I was doing all these things to get outside my comfort zone and make 2026 different by doing different things. And that was episode 187, how I turned January into a positive plot twist. That is a tongue twister instead of a post-Christmas slump. So go back and listen to that if you haven't already, if you want to. I'm not telling you have to. But I mentioned the coaching retreat there and I went, it was near me. So I thought I should go. Like, I saw it, I thought it would be good. And it was like 7 minutes drive from my house. And I was like, yeah, I can't talk myself out of this. That would be silly. I didn't know a single person. I was pretty anxious about attending because it was like a new thing. I didn't know what it really entailed. I didn't know anyone who would be there, what we were going to be doing. Because of that label I've always had, that I'm the shy, quiet one who never says anything. But during that retreat, I realized something that stopped me in my tracks. That version of me, the shy, quiet girl who never says anything, doesn't actually exist anymore. And I already knew this because I've spent years working on myself, personal development, challenging myself, going on solo travel adventures that have pushed me out of my comfort zone like you wouldn't believe. So I know that I'm not that person anymore, but like I still feel it, you know? Even if you know something logically, you can go into new situations and still have that label on you and still have that as like your background operating system. So I always go to these things and think, oh God, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I know I'm not the kind of person who does this. Where in reality, I actually am now. So yes, I felt nervous about going just because it was unknown. But I was the first person to raise my hand and introduce myself, basically, when we first started, other than the person hosting the retreat, obviously. So she said, basically, let's go around and introduce ourselves, which, you know, as a former shy, quiet person, those words are the words you dread the most in all the world. and everyone else was like quiet. It was obvious no one wanted to go first, even though there were some pretty big characters there who obviously do not have the same self-image problem I have about being the shy, quiet one. No one spoke, so I put my hand up. I went first. And I sort of did it without thinking, because I went through a phase of sort of challenging myself to do that. When I first went to university, for instance, I forced myself to put my hand up in class and say something, even if it was something that didn't really need to be said or something a bit silly, or just to ask a question, just so, like the first seminar or whatever I was in, I sort of got it over and done with and wasn't thinking the whole time, oh God, I've never spoken in this class. It's got too far into the term now for me to say anything. I wanted to put my hand up the first sort of class to sort of show myself that I could do it. So I kind of naturally did that in this retreat. And it wasn't at that moment that I thought it. It was a bit later on. We were doing a personal development exercise, where they were all personal development exercises, but it was sort of reflecting on things. And it just popped into my head like, I introduced myself first. I put my hand up. I've spoken quite a lot at this retreat. I have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed pairing off with people and getting to know them and talking about things like, deep things with these people. And 10 years ago, all of those things would have been unthinkable for me. I wouldn't even have gone to that retreat if it wasn't something that I was forced to do for school or work or whatever. I just wouldn't have been there in the first place. And I definitely wouldn't have been the first to introduce myself and spoken up so much during the day. And yet, somewhere along the way, I became this new person, but I was still operating from an outdated identity, a background character version of myself, to put it in Movified terms, that no longer matches who I am now. And I just hadn't really stopped to think about it recently. So in this episode, I want to unpack that sort of realization a little bit, what it unlocked for me, and how you might be doing the same thing, not necessarily with exactly the same self-image in mind, or perhaps you do have that shy, quiet thing. But anyone who is living from a past version of themselves that is quietly, or not so quietly, holding you back from the things you actually want, the things you're ready for, the things you know you need to pursue. Because the labels given to us by ourselves and others, and that's the important bit, way, way back, like maybe this is back in high school, primary school, nursery, like those labels might have actually disappeared years ago. Like they might have stopped fitting us years ago, decades ago. But maybe we didn't stop to notice or even question it. And we won't notice unless we actually stop to think about it, like really think about it. And that's what I want to do and encourage you to do in this episode. Okay, so let's go back to that retreat for a minute. I'd signed up knowing I wouldn't know anyone there. Old me would have just not done that at all. If I was going and I knew I'd have to introduce myself, I would have maybe rehearsed my introduction in my head for days, just because I was so anxious about what I'd have to say. I would have stayed silent. I would have hoped someone else would speak first. I wouldn't put my hand up to voluntarily speak. And I would have, been praying or hoping that the attention wouldn't fall on me at any point. I would have faded into the background, or at least tried to. And yes, I did, as I say, feel nervous going in. I'm not pretending I've transformed into some like fearless extrovert who never feels anxious about anything. That's not the point. The point is that my nerves were manageable and I went and did the thing anyway. So when the facilitator asked for someone to introduce themselves first, I raised my hand. I didn't overthink it. I didn't wait for someone else to go. I just did it. And like I say, afterwards, I had this like weird, almost out of body moment where I thought, hang on, that's not me, is it? Like, that's not what I do. I'm the shy girl. As I say, even a few years ago, I would not have done that. I would have wanted the ground to swallow me whole if I had to talk about real, deep, personal stuff in front of strangers. I think it's easier in front of strangers, honestly, rather than people you know, but still, I would have had the hole in the ground swallowing me thing in my head. And yet, even with all this evidence, and that's what it is, I laugh with my friends who watch The Traitors and they're always going on about all the evidence they're collecting when in actual fact, there's no evidence anywhere. There's no proof, usually. They just use the word evidence all the time. But in this case, it actually is evidence. So I realized I still walk around, even knowing that I do all this amazing stuff these days, I still walk around with this internal label of the quiet, shy girl who never says anything. Although if I'm being super honest, the label is more like the shyest, most quiet girl, quietest girl in the world in like big, bold capital letters. That's how I see myself still. It's like my brain's taking years to catch up with what I actually am. And I find a lot of people get this if they lose a lot of weight or get a lot fitter than they used to be. I think this is a known phenomenon. You might have lost, several stone. A stone is 14 pounds for any US people listening. I confuse people with that all the time. But you can still look in the mirror and see the old you. you can go shopping for clothes. You can pick something up thinking, oh, that'll fit. And then you get home and you try it on and it's like several sizes too big because you still see yourself as being a lot bigger. Or perhaps you've got a lot fitter and you automatically think, oh, I can't run that far or I can't do that because the old you couldn't do it, even though you know now you can do a lot more fitness things. It's like your brain takes ages to catch up and it can take years, as silly as that sounds. So that's always like running in the background, I think. But doing things like this, talking about it, teaching other people how to get over this really helps. So I hope you get something from this. So yeah, at some point, well, I think I'm still in the process, but like my character evolved from the background character to the main character. And like I say, I'm still working on this, but it went from sidekick to star, but it was so gradual, I didn't really notice. Or if I did, I never really stopped to celebrate the fact that all my like self-development work and me forcing myself to put myself out there over and over and over and over again for years and years and years was actually paying off, like in spades. And I think this happens to so many of us. We build our identity in childhood, in school, when we're teenagers, and it honestly is based mostly on what other people tell us. It's based on how we coped with certain situations, how we dealt with certain things, based on who we believed we had to become in order to survive certain environments. Like I hated school, I hated presentations, I hated speaking out in class, so I stopped speaking in class altogether, basically. Unless a teacher actually pointed at me and got me to answer a question. And even then I would just go bright red and stutter something out that made no sense. These things happen in our formative years and those labels stick, as I say, for months, years, even decades, whether they're good labels or very, very bad labels. So like I say, it could be she's shy or he's the funny one. Oh, she's too much to handle. He's so lazy. You're too sensitive. You're not confident enough. You never stick at anything. You don't know what you want. He's too annoying. She's too ditzy. Are you as stupid as you look? And I'm sure even worse ones you've probably had as well, especially if bullies were involved. And if they're said often enough, or to be fair, even if they're said once by someone we really either don't like, if it's a bully, or someone we really respect, like a parent, a teacher, a mentor, whatever, even if they just say it once, it can stick. But if they're said over and over and over again, then we definitely internalize them. We don't question them. We just claim them as truth and we carry them with us into the future, even if we don't realize we're doing any of this. And the problem is, even if those labels were accurate at one point, it doesn't mean they're still true today. And it doesn't even mean they were like actually true or completely true back then. Especially, as I say, if those people were given to us by other people, and especially if the people who gave us those labels didn't actually know us, didn't know the real us. If you had a bully, unless, they started out as a bestie or something, they're not going to know about you. They're just projecting on you or just acting tough in front of their friends. Like it doesn't mean anything about you, but you take it on board anyway. And unless we consciously update them by doing this kind of mindset work, self-development work, we can continue operating from them for years without even realizing we're doing it. So the question, which is what this podcast episode is called, are you still playing a version of you that no longer exists? Like a background character version of you, the younger you that has since grown up, but you've not really taken that into account. Because if you are, that's going to limit the kinds of scenes you allow yourself to step into. It's going to limit the things you believe you can do, basically. So because of those labels, you might be saying, I'm not the kind of person who speaks up. I'm not the kind of person who travels solo. I'm not the kind of person who would ever go to an event alone or eat out alone or do anything alone. I'm not the kind of person who starts a business. I'm not the kind of person who would apply for a job like that. So many things. But says who? As I say, the people who gave you those labels years ago or decades ago, they probably don't even remember doing it. And they might not have fit you anyway, at all. So I talked about this in an episode recently, all about Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, however you say it. Let me check. That was episode 182, what Taylor Swift's Eras Tour can teach us about living a big, bold, movie-worthy life. But I was thinking about this as I was prepping for this episode. If you've watched her tour, you'll know there's never just one version of us. We are constantly growing, changing, evolving. She is constantly, experimenting with different music, different types of songs, different outfits, different expressions of who she is, different vibes. There's never just one version of us. There's no way anyone, even if they've never done a self-development exercise in their life, can be exactly the same person at age, say, 40 as they were at age 10. Like, it's impossible.
Okay, movie star, real talk. Are you tired of feeling like a background extra in your own life? Then it's time to step into the spotlight and activate your main character era. And I've got just the thing to help you do it. Grab my free Movie Star Alter Ego Starter Kit, your behind-the-scenes pass to creating the bold, brave, action-taking version of you who goes after their dreams like the star of a blockbuster. Inside, you'll discover how to design your alter ego, choose your transformational item, pick your theme song, and build the rituals and confidence cues you need to start living your life like the epic movie it was meant to be. So, if you're ready to rewrite your script, roll camera, and finally take the lead, head to movifyyourlife.com/free to download your free starter kit now. That's movifyyourlife.com/free. Your next scene starts today. And now, let's get back to the action.
So, now that we've sort of laid the foundations, I want to walk you through a process you can actually do to help you with this. Like a practical thing, and you're going to need a notebook for this one. So go and grab one, or get your phone if you want to type it in there. The first step is this. Write down every label you can think of that you've ever had over the years. Like everything. Things people called you, things teachers said, things partners said, things your family joked about, things you tell yourself on a daily basis. And like I say, this can be things like, I'm too quiet, or I'm too loud, I'm too much, I'm not enough, I talk too much, I'm awkward, I'm flaky, I don't follow through with things, I don't believe in myself, I'm not disciplined, I'm not creative, I'm bad with money, I don't know what I want, I'm always late, I'm the anxious one, I can never make friends, like whatever it is, get it all out. Don't censor it and don't judge it. Just data dump, word vomit, the whole thing. And take your time with this, because it can be a bit painful if you're suddenly realizing that you've been telling yourself something over and over again, and it's you who's been telling it yourself over and over again. But always remember that that could have stemmed from something someone once told you, and you may not even remember that if it was when you were really young, or if you've blocked it from your mind. So it's not all your fault. And the next thing is to go through that list one by one and ask yourself 2 questions. So question 1, was this thing ever actually true? Or was this a label given to me by someone else that I just accepted? Because like I say, sometimes the people giving you these labels don't even know you, or they might not be seeing the whole picture, or they might be misreading the situation. Sometimes we're not shy, we're cautious. Sometimes we're not being lazy, we're just overwhelmed. Sometimes we're not too much, we're just in the wrong room. And like I say, a lot of the time, other people only see the tip of the iceberg. They don't even have a clue about the 99% of other stuff underneath the surface that they can't see. The real stuff that makes you, you. So be honest and try not to look at this, emotionally, like be curious, like you're gathering data in a science experiment. So do that. Then question 2 to go through all these with is, even if it was true at some point in the past, is it still true today? Yes or no? Not like sometimes, maybe, just yes or no. And go through every one of those with that question in mind as well. And if the answer is no, brilliant, you're halfway there. Your job then is to gather proof or evidence. And this is where it can get really powerful. So basically, go hunting for evidence that you are not that person anymore. This can be specific memories, moments you remember, decisions you made. I can never say that word. Decisions you made, risks you took, scenes where you surprised yourself, main character moments. I've talked about this on the podcast before. A moment where you felt like you were a main character in the movie. So for me, my proof, my evidence might look like the following things. I have solo traveled all over the world. Anxious, shy people who hate putting themselves out there, don't do that. I've gone abroad. I've lived in co-living houses with digital nomads from all over the globe. And I even did a workshop when I was terrified. I have filmed and released a movie-mentary, feature-length movie-mentary, and filming that was a huge exercise in putting myself out there and not caring what people think. I put myself out there online for my business week after week, even doing really silly things, especially on Instagram. And on Instagram at Movify Your Life, by the way, if you want to see my silly reels. I started my own podcast, and in the previous iteration of this podcast, I did a lot of interviews. So I was interviewing people all the time. When I was a teenager, I interviewed bands and artists for an online music zine I created. I've told my personal story in a book, several actually. And thinking back to that day retreat, I raised my hand to speak first in a room full of strangers. That is a whole load of evidence that I am not the invisible shy girl any longer, even if my brain is taking a while to catch up with that. And when you see your evidence written down, so don't just think about these things, actually write them down. It becomes really difficult to argue with with it. So just make sure you do this exercise. Okay, but if you go through your list and some of the labels or all of the labels are still true today, that's not a failure. It's just information. Let's take the emotion out of it. Look at it like a scientist looking at some data. If you want to picture yourself as some kind of mad movie scientist, go right ahead. That's more fun. But then ask yourself, of these things, these labels that are still true today, do I actually want to change this label? Because not everything needs fixing. Maybe you are quiet and you like that. Like, I don't want to be a crazy, loud, obnoxious person. I'm not saying everyone who isn't quiet is obnoxious, but you know what I mean. I'm quite happy being a soft-spoken, quiet person, as long as I don't use that as an excuse not to go after my dreams. So like maybe you don't love huge parties, you're not an extrovert. And that's fine. You don't have to go to huge parties. If you prefer hanging out with a few people and talking in depth about, real stuff, that's great. But if there's something on that list that feels limiting, like it's holding you back from the life you want, then we need to do something about it. So then you can ask yourself, how could I start shifting this? How can I start getting rid of this label? And this is where you can start actually doing things about it. So you might design a movie star alter ego, which I talk about all the time on this podcast. I love it so much. It helped me so much. And I want it to help other people. So I made it into a free guide. So you can get it at movifyyourlife.com/free. Link is in the show notes. You could start with that. You might set yourself a tiny low stakes challenge this week, or a big challenge if you want to go big straight away. I'm not judging. So if you think I'm the shy, quiet person who never has the confidence to talk to new people, maybe you can start one conversation at an event you're at, or at the supermarket or the cafe. And I talked about this in a recent episode as well. Episode 185, the shy main character arc, building confidence, one movified scene at a time. If this is resonating with you, the whole shy thing, go and listen to that because I think it will really help. If you believe you're the kind of person who never follows through and never sticks to your promises you make yourself, then commit to one small promise this week and actually go and do the thing. If you think you're not the confident one, maybe you volunteer to go first in one small situation like I did. And again, treat it like an experiment. Like, remove the drama, the emotion. If you do the thing and it feels easier than expected, that's data. If you do the thing and it feels uncomfortable, that's also data. If you do the thing and it's a massive disaster, that's data too. And also that's just being human. So don't beat yourself up about it. The fact you tried is the main thing. Like, neither outcome defined you. It just informs your next move. So the biggest mistake I think we can make is clinging to identities that on the surface seemed negative, but that once actually protected us. Like, the shy version of me protected me at one point. She kept me safe. She kept me small enough to survive certain environments like high school. Really hated high school until I got to sixth form. Then I loved it. But, there's a reason why we have these labels. And sometimes, like I say, they did protect you at one point, but you probably don't need that protection in the same way anymore. I'm not in high school anymore, thank the Lord. And if I keep operating from that script, I will keep limiting myself to roles I've already outgrown. So ask yourself, are you doing the same thing? And another thing to ask yourself is, which version of you are you currently letting make decisions? And this might be different in different areas of your life. So your personal life, or your career, or your business life, your social life, the part of you that has big goals and dreams, but maybe not going after them. Which version of you are calling the shots in that area of your life? Maybe it's the 6-year-old you that got told you're too loud, like shut up, by a teacher. Maybe it's the 16-year-old you who got told you're stupid and you'll never amount to anything. Maybe it's the 22-year-old you who had that one bad experience and it's affected the rest of your life. Or is it the version of you who has traveled, maybe, grown, failed, tried again, learned, expanded, and survived more than you give yourself credit for? Because that version is the one that deserves to be cast in your current movie and all your scenes going forward. So to recap your homework, talking about high school, giving you homework, write down all your labels you've ever had, question whether they were ever true, and if you can pinpoint where they actually came from, like a specific person or a specific moment, that can give you even more knowledge and more power. Then decide if they still are true, gather evidence either way, and choose one small experiment to gather new data. And remember, whether the experiment proves you are or aren't that person, it's not a verdict, it's just information, it's a starting point for the next step. And the thing is, you're allowed to recast yourself in your life. You're allowed to stop living from a background character version of you that expired years ago. You're allowed to grow and change and evolve, just like a main character does in a movie. They always have an amazing transformation arc. They're never the same person at the end as they are at the start, and it should be the same in life. And it is the same because, like I say, we're not the same person we were even a few years ago. So if this episode has nudged something awake in you, if you're starting to suspect you've outgrown your old version of you more than you realized, then good. Because that means the main character arc has already begun. So if you haven't already, go back, listen to this episode again, grab your notebook, do all the exercises, and let's make sure the version of you who is making the decisions in 2026 and beyond is actually the one who deserves the starring role. And if you do any of this stuff, please let me know. I'd love to know that I'm actually helping people. I'm not just talking out into the ether and never hearing anything back. You can email me at action@movifyyourlife.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at movifyyourlife. Links in the show notes. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, a bit woo-woo episode, but a bit practical as well. Please share it if you know someone who you think could benefit from this. And until next time, I'll catch you on the red carpet.
Thank you so much for listening to the Movify Your Life show. Before you go, don't forget to sign up for the main character memo mailing list at movifyyourlife.com/list for exclusive tips, treats, and behind-the-scenes magic. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could please subscribe, leave a review, or share this podcast with a friend. Let's spread that Movify message far and wide, because everyone deserves to live an epic life fit for the big screen. I'll see you next week for another Movify Monday. Until then, that's a wrap.